Reseller, coming to you live this morning from northern New Mexico. And as per usual, I'll be sharing with you everything that sold on eBay over the past 48 hours. Got a good variety of some clothing and a couple hard goods to share with you today. And so another slow weekend for me, but it just seems lately, since we've been into quarter 1, that the week is keeping me very busy and then the weekends are a little bit slower, or vice versa. And so we just accept it. We chalk it up to what it is, being the first part of the year. And it has allowed me, as I said last week, to really be getting some things in order with my business. As an individual who runs this whole ship alone, it is nice to have a little bit of a slowdown in sales, because let me tell you what, my storage room was getting a little bit crazy, and this has given me some time to button up my inventory, to also delist some items that were kind of slow and not getting a whole lot of views, not a lot of watchers. And so I suggest, if sales are slow for you, there's definitely some things that you can do to help that, and I'll share what I like to do this time of year with you at the end of the video. But let's go ahead and jump right into it, because I know you're all really here to watch and see what I sold online for profit. And so first item up is a KitchenAid immersion blender. This bad boy right here I picked up at my local thrift store, I think just a couple weeks back, and I think I paid $4 or $5 for it. I failed to write down what I paid for it, but I'm almost certain that's what it was, $4 or $5. And this bad boy did sell for me overnight for $29 plus shipping. I love anything KitchenAid, so if you can come across KitchenAid for the right price, definitely look up the sold and completed on it. It's a quality premium kitchen brand. They make everything from mixers to appliances that are large and small. And I think this is the 5th or 6th immersion blender I've sold. They never seem to stick around in my inventory for long, and I generally can always sell them for about 25 to 30 bucks. The last one I sold did have a little crack in it, but this one is in much better shape. It is a 2-speed blender, so I definitely want to put that in the title. And then with it, also, if you can put the actual color, that will help your sale. For some reason, women just want to attach that actual name, the actual color to the item, especially with premium brands. I find that to be true with some hard goods, but especially with premium clothing. It'll just help your sale. It'll help the item to move faster. And that catchy name from the factory, I don't know what it is, it's just more appealing. So this bad boy here, glad to see it go. When I put specific words in the keyword description box, I simply just like to put culinary, I'll put kitchen gadgets, I'll put cuisine, I'll put chef, anything like that. Use your imagination. Anybody that would be using this type of item, you could put baker, you could do it all. Sous chef, there's a lot of different people out there that want this item, whether it be for an industrial use or probably more likely just to use at home. So again, KitchenAid, their blenders, their toasters, and again, their tabletop mixers, those can sell for a lot of money. Just be careful with their tabletop mixers, because a lot of people want a lot of money for them. So again, check out what they're selling for, and just know that those tabletop mixers are very heavy to ship, and it might be something that would be better to possibly just sell locally if you're into that kind of thing. I've had some success selling heavier items on Facebook Marketplace, and that's ultimately what led me to eBay to sell in a higher volume. So maybe just think about that if you come across heavier or bigger items. There's always that local market, and while you might not be able to sell it for as much money, you won't have to pay for the shipping, the taxes, and all of those items. So shout out to a good friend who's watching, Chemo South Texas Resell. We see you, buddy. Thanks for shouting me out. Hope you're doing good down in Texas. I got a lot of family in Texas. It's beautiful. And my older brother is actually in the Navy in Corpus Christi. So shout out to him, and I'm grateful for all those people that serve. And I just love Texas. Cool state, and it's one of my neighboring states, being a guy from northern New Mexico. So love when people engage. Next item up, hook fishing shirt. Now, I just recently picked up a lot of these in the last week. I paid way up on them, but I picked this guy up last month, and it was a little bit cheaper. It was only $6.49, which is still paying up for this item, but these items sell really well for me in the spring and in the summer. They never sit around for long, even if they're a little bit beat up. And this one actually did have a little bit of flaws, not anything major, just some scuffs on it. So I was good about listing it. When it comes to fishing shirts, I like to put different types of fishing in the description box. I'll often put bass fishing, trout fishing, tarpon fishing. I'll put deep sea fishing. I'll put charter fishing. I'll put guide service. You use your imagination, just keep it connected to what the item is used for. And if these shirts are perforated, if they're caped, or sometimes maybe on the back, they're vented and they're breathable, I'll put all of those words in the description as long as it does suit the actual item. This one did have some perforations under the armpit, so I do believe I put breathable and I put perforated. And so this bad boy here sold for me for $18.48. I charged $5.95 shipping, and this bad boy sold within a month's time. Definitely not a huge amount of profit, but a bread and butter item. When I can find hook fishing shirts, I always try to lift them. I live by several really large bodies of water. Lake Powell is only several hours from where I live. And then there's also several great rivers in my area, one of which is the San Juan River, and that is world famous for fly fishing. So it's just easy to find a lot of good outdoor adventure apparel, especially when it comes to fishing gear. I find a lot of Sims fishing shirts, waders. I find a lot of Columbia fishing shirts and a lot of other brands. I wish I found more poncho shirts. Those sell quickly and they sell for a lot of money, but they're kind of rare. But I just love selling that type of stuff because I am an outdoorsman. And so if you're new to reselling, I think it's important to have some type of connection to the things you're selling. Obviously, there's a lot of things I pick up that I flip that there's no connection at all. And that's because I have to make a living. I have to make money to support my income, my children, my bills, and so on and so forth. But I think it is very fun when you can connect yourself and your interests to those things you're moving. And often what I find is you become more of an expert about those items, probably because you used them, you know the quality of those items, and it just makes it easier to title and describe items like that. And so that's kind of why I like selling hunting, fishing gear. I sell lots of gorp, a lot of snowboarding and ski wear, and that's because those are all things I love to do, but also because those are items I can find very easily in my area. And one of my big struggles is just that. It's finding enough items to scale my business. Being from a small area with one Goodwill and a handful of thrift stores makes this very hard to do in the winter months when there's no garage sales. But I'm very good about being aggressive and buying a lot in the spring and summer months when I can find those garage sales, yard sales, estate sales, fundraiser sales, and so on and so forth. So next item up, bread and butter brand for me, Columbia, just a fleece jacket. Picked this up over the past summer, gave $2 for it. I bought a lot of clothing, which drove the price down on that lot. And that's something I suggest you do, especially if you can get into an armload of clothing at a garage sale. Most people trying to get rid of clothing at a garage sale are looking to move it. They don't want to carry it back inside of the house later that day. So just know that you can make deals, you can make offers, and try to make them reasonable. And I think that that's important. You don't want to insult the person, but I know anytime I come up with an armload of clothing and I walk up and counter the original offer, about 7 out of 10 times, I usually get the deal I'm looking for. And if not, I can counter again and still drive the price lower. So back to Columbia, just a fleece jacket. I like to think of Columbia as kind of the blue collar North Face, or definitely the blue collar to Patagonia. It's a very mid to low tier outdoor adventure apparel brand, but it's very popular because it's affordable and it's pretty good quality. I would say that it's probably definitely not as good as maybe LL Bean, but it sells very well for me. What I really love from Columbia is, again, their outerwear. I love their ski jackets, their snowboarding pants, their snowboarding bib overalls, fleece jackets, you name it. And then again, I sell a lot of their Omni Shield, Omni Heat, Omni wick, anything from the Omni line will typically sell well. Just watch your buying costs because again, it doesn't sell for a ton of money, but it seems to sell very well. And because I live very near southern Colorado and also because I live in northern New Mexico, there's just a lot of outdoor people that maybe can't afford Patagonia or North Face. And so I think that's probably why I find a lot of Columbia in my area is again, it's very blue collar, it's very affordable. So this piece here sold for $15.30. I charge $7.95 shipping. I'll stuff it in a poly mailer, which will keep the shipping costs low. With this item, I like to put Gorp and Gorp Core on the title if I can squeeze it. If not, I'll put that in the description box. And I also just like to put different outdoors themed words in the description for the keywords. I'll put outside, camping, hiking, travel, vacation. You could put walking, running. There's a lot of women out there that just like these mid to lightweight fleeces in the spring and summer for active wear. They like to wear it outside, maybe doing yard work. For walking, you could put school teacher. Don't get too broad, but again, hit that target audience, that intended audience that you think would use this item. And again, I only gave $2 for it, so I'm happy to see it go. Columbia, again, a bread and butter. Now, I got another fleece for you. This one sold for a little bit more money. I did sell it on an offer, and that is this Carhartt piece. Love me some Carhartt. Carhartt, as I always say, is my business partner. I got a few of them. The other one is Area because I sell a ton of Area. But Area and Carhartt are predominant in my area because, again, I live in a rural area with a lot of farming, a lot of industry. And so I don't have to go that far to find Carhartt. I have a lot of people that reach out and ask me how I come across so much Carhartt. And I really just feel like it's indicative to the area I live in. I'm sure if I lived in the big city, I would not be coming across so many duck canvas jackets, coveralls, double knee pants, but I'm very good about finding those and I keep an eye out for those type of items. This Carhartt piece is a little more on the rare side for me, but I do sell a lot of women's outerwear, and the women's Carhartt outerwear sells well for me. The hoodies, the fleece jackets, and so this bad boy here, I had listed initially for $23 and some change. I had somebody offer me $21 and I countered it, and we ultimately decided on $23 was fair. I don't give a whole lot of great deals on Carhartt just because I know it's gonna sell for me, and also because this item hadn't been listed longer than 60 days. So I always try to give any item at least 90 days before I'm super generous. But one thing I like to think about is as I'm moving out of certain seasons, sometimes what I like to do is I like to move items out if I know I'm gonna have to sit on them. So a lot of the jackets that I'm coming across this time of year, I'm being particular about buying, especially if it's a jacket that's not in great condition, or maybe a jacket that doesn't have a great sell-through rate. But I don't want to sit on a lot of these heavy jackets that are kind of low end and kind of beat up. So I am more liberal about making deals. And so with lesser brands, I suggest you do the same so you're not sitting on that jacket for another 6, 7, 8 months. I will always tell people that it's easy to still sell some shorts and some sandals in the winter months because, again, it's always going to be warm in South Florida, in Southern California, or maybe in the Gulf. It's warm in those areas, but I almost never sell heavy to midweight jackets in the middle of winter. That almost never happens for me. And so I try to change my focus towards sourcing items that are appropriate to list for the upcoming season. And so right now, a lot of the jackets I'm looking for are really windbreakers, they're raincoats, or they're light to midweight brands. And really I'm looking for the outdoor inspired kind where people are trying to get outside because the weather's getting nicer and they're just looking for that light to midweight jacket. So again, try to be liberal with giving some deals as you move out of seasons, especially if you have an issue with storage. And I am storing everything out of the comfort of my own home from several empty closets and a few spare bedrooms. So I really got to watch how many items I take in, because as I always say, you don't want to get top heavy with your inventory. That can get tricky, and that will bring down the sell-through rate of your store overall, and that can halt your sales. So you don't want to do that. You always want to be listing good stuff, and getting good sales. So next item up to bat, cinch geometric button-up long sleeve Western shirt. So lots of Western shirts, but I'm a little more particular in the last year about what I'm sourcing. I do like to source a lot of cinch and area Western shirts, but what I do find is they're very expensive to source on my local scene, especially at thrift stores. They've just priced them out of the park, and what I find is they're priced up so high I can't make a whole lot of money. So I lean on the garage sales because I can find Western shirts of that brand, of that variety, for much, much cheaper. And I like to pick up Western shirts at garage sales for about $2 to $5 at very most. This one here, though, was given to me by a dear friend who moved back into my local area and just gave me a ton of clothing. Dude got shredded, lost a lot of weight, and just had an excess of clothing from moving that didn't fit him. And so he basically tossed me several boxes of a lot of good flame-resistant work utility clothing, but a lot of Western wear, and this is just one of those pieces. Now, heads up to anybody, if you're gonna sell Western shirts, especially brands like Cinch, I think Cinch is one of the worst ones, their sizes are very big. Their XL shirts seem to be almost like a 2XL in other brands. So just be good about listing your measurements. I think that's very important with dress shirts. Those guys want to be particular about the size. They want to look sharp as a tack. They want to shine bright like a diamond, especially if they're going to some rodeo or maybe they're going to a country western bar. They just like to look sharp. And so make sure you put good listings. Personally, I like to do obviously the pit to pit measurement. I'll do a shoulder to shoulder. I'll do a base of collar to sleeve end. And then if anybody else has any other measures or just wants more pictures, I'm usually happy to do that. That's one of those things you kind of need to do. If you're going to be a clothing reseller. I do try to avoid a lot of button-up shirts because there's a lot of measurements. I hate buttoning up all the buttons when you stage them out to list. And then you also want to be sure to try to steam out the wrinkles. Sometimes I'm a little bad about that, but the more you display your items with good lighting and good condition, and you have them on a nice colored back flat lay, whether it maybe is a piece of carpet or just a fleece blanket, that's going to help your items to look nicer and help you to get more sales. So an item like this, I was good about putting geometric in the title, and then in the description box, I put Western wear, I put cowboy, rodeo. I like to put farm, ranch. I'll also put work, travel, because there's a lot of guys that are in business that just dress up like cowboys. And the prints that I really love with Western wear are the geometric prints, the paisley prints. Those just do really, really well when it comes to Western wear. I tend to prefer to buy pearl snap shirts over button-ups, but for the right price, I'll still jump onto the right brand and resell it. But again, I think pearl snaps just add another level. I think that's, in my own opinion, a little bit of an upgrade when it comes to Western wear. And so just keep an eye out for those brands if you can find them. And if you can't, well, look for what's common in your area. So very last item to share with you, because I didn't have a whole lot of sales over the last couple days, is this pair of DeWalt men's sunglasses. These are polarized, they're shatterproof, and I came across a lot of these, picked them all up for $1 a piece. I've been selling them on average for about $8 to $12. I've sold all of them but 2 pair. I'm down to 1 pair now, and I might just keep them for myself to do some yard work around the home. This second to last pair I sold only went for $8.50 plus shipping, but again, I only gave $1 for it. I'm gonna go back to words like construction, I'll do oil field, I'll put refinery, gas plant, plumber, concrete finisher, framer. You could do all of those industrial blue collar words. Again, think of the guys that are using DeWalt products. Those are a lot of guys in the labor intensive fields like construction. And again, not a whole lot of profit, but this was super easy to list. It's only a couple pictures, and I love having a few items laying around that are kind of quick and easy to list. Selling clothing is very lucrative. There's a lot of need for used clothing, and the used clothing market is just blowing up. But one downfall of listing clothing is it is very slow. And so I would suggest to you to develop ways to make that go faster, because clothing is slower to list, and clothing can have a lot of flaws, especially when you're dealing with a lot of used items. So again, I go back to liking having items that are quick to list and move. And so As one of my followers just reported, there's a huge cult following of Milwaukee and DeWalt people out there. And so I agree to that. And if you can find those power brands like that and you can find them for cheap, they're typically going to sell for you a lot quicker. And so that's all I got for you. Slow weekend. This is the ups and downs of reselling. It's quarter 1, but as I said earlier in the video, there's a handful of things that I like to do to try to kick up my sales in quarter 1. And one of the things you can do that is generally easy if your death pile or if your inventory will support it is to try to kick up how many items you're listing. I've been doing that for the last couple weeks when I can afford it. And so typically this time of year, I like to list between 7 to 10 items. Lately though, the death pile's been diminishing down, so it's been about 5 to 7 items, which is very minimal for me. And I find when I only list 5 items, I only get about 5 sales. Ideally, I would love to be listing somewhere between 15 to 20 items a day, but being a smaller reseller from a smaller area, it's really hard to come across that kind of inventory this time of year. I am able to kick up my listing amount though in the spring and summer months when the garage sales pop off, and that's really when it's nice to be able to do that because of the summer slowdown. So again, that's one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is be listing high quality items, and you're gonna do that by sourcing things with a high sell-through rate. And so if you don't know how to assess the sold and completed items on eBay, I suggest you look into that. There's a lot of videos out there that'll explain that. I have created a video like that, but if you don't know how to assess how quickly an item will sell, typically in a 90-day period, that's gonna make it harder for you to decide on what to buy. And trust me, there are items out there with flaws that will still sell, and then there's used items out there that are in great condition that may not sell. And so if you don't know how to differentiate and do the science and look at that research, then it's going to make it harder for you to be successful. And again, that can make it hard for you to move items out. And if you're somebody that is limited on storage space, you don't want to be buying a bunch of stuff that's going to take over a year to sell. I typically really like to source items that have a 50% and above sell-through rate, but what I'm really looking for is actually 80% and above, because those items are gonna move faster, and that's why I always lean on very powerful brands. And I like to say that I have bread and butter brands, but I also have bolo brands that are out there, but I'm not too shy to sell just about anything that has a high sell-through rate. Now, lastly, the third thing I like to do to try to help my sales is just do good shipping practices, and that means getting things out as soon as possible. I think I said this in a live stream maybe last week or the week before, but I'm going to reiterate this again, that the quicker you can get items out, the faster and happier people will be, and that's going to give you something down the road, and that is good feedback. And so I constantly look at my feedback, I follow it, and right now I'm running 99.9% good feedback, and I'm very proud of that. But I do a lot of good hard work and a good amount of shipping practices to protect that. But when you read my good feedback and you go down the run through of what people have to say, the good majority of people say one thing and one thing in particular, and that's fast shipping. If there's anything else they say, it would be good packaging. And so just know if you're shipping fragile items, hard goods that could shatter or break, take the time to put thought into those items, wrap them up. Don't go cheap on your packaging materials. Don't go cheap on your bubble, your packing peanuts or paper. I learned that in my very first year of reselling after breaking a few items just because I was trying to be cheap and save a little bit of money. That is never worth it in the end. And a big reason I love selling clothing is really hard to damage, and it's pretty quick and easy to ship off. And for the most part, as long as it's not a big heavy jacket, most clothing that I ship is fairly affordable, and you can get by with putting a lot of clothing items and even shoes in poly mailers, and that is something that I love to do to save money with my shipping practices. So that's all I got for you people today. Sorry it's not more to share with you, but that's just the nature of reselling. I'm just happy that things have stayed busy for me, and I'm moving into almost my 3rd year as a full-time reseller. So please reach out in the comments, reach out to me directly. I love sharing what I know. I'm humbled to have had the success I've had on YouTube and to now consider myself a content creator who gets to share all of my knowledge, my failures, and my victories with you. And so I love to just be that cheerleader for people who are getting started, but I also like to hear about what you're selling, and I'm not too proud to hear from other more experienced resellers who have been doing this for a long time, because the beauty in reselling is you can always learn more about how you do this business and about the things you're selling. So I'm gonna go ahead and wind this one down. If you like this video, please reach out there, hit that like button for me. Please subscribe, and if you would, make a comment. I'd love to hear about what's selling for you, what isn't, and maybe some things that maybe you've made good money off of selling in the past. So that's all I got for you. I'm out. We'll do it again next time. Peace.